Hello, welcome everybody to Small Business Insurance Basics for Entrepreneurs with BCAA today. My name is Angie Whitfield, and I am the new president and CEO of the Burnaby Board of Trade. And before we get started, we just want to take a moment to recognize that we are on the traditional homelands of the Hakamelam and the Snohomish-speaking people, and we extend our deep gratitude for the opportunity to do the work that we do on their territory and also hold events like this today. Now, moving on to today. With us today, we have Dan Shira, the Senior Field Adjuster, and Patrick Smith, Senior Commercial Insurance Advisor, here to guide us through a crash course on small business insurance what small business insurance is, the different coverages that will be available for your unique business, and how it can protect you. I do need to take a minute to thank all of our sponsors who make events like this possible through our Center for Business and Workforce Development. You can see those sponsors on your screen now. The platinum sponsors are Alexander College, BCIT School of Business and Media, Electronic Arts. Our gold sponsors, Hemlock Printers, Rioche Canada, and Simon Fraser University. I'd also like to take a minute to thank our annual partners who support us not only for workshops like this, but support our organization throughout the year, and they are on your screen now. All right, and with that, I'm going to move on to introducing the speakers that we have here today. As we go through today's presentation, if you have any questions, please drop them into the chat in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, and we'll save a few minutes at the end to go over all the comments that you had. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you today Dan Shira and Patrick Smith from BCAA. Dan is a Senior Field Adjuster with BCAA Small Business Insurance Team. Starting his insurance claims career in 2009, Dan handled claims from across various farm, commercial, and habitational lines of coverage. Previously, Dan was a field adjuster in BCAA's insurance claims department. He then took to the senior field adjuster role when the team was started in 2021. Patrick has been in the insurance industry for 26 years. 24 of those years were spent in commercial insurance. Pat has been with BCAA since June of 2011, just prior to BCAA's Small Business Insurance launch. He is proud to serve BC's small businesses with great products and services that BCAA is famous for. All right, and with that, I will hand it over to you, Dan and Pat. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Angie. Good morning, everyone. And thanks for everyone else at the Burnaby Board of Trade for having us here today to talk about small business insurance basics. And then just to note, if you hear Pat or myself say commercial insurance anytime in the presentation, that's the same thing as small business insurance. And so we know you are all busy entrepreneurs, and we have an insurance 101 course for you to help you understand and assess the risks that you might face, and also determine how to protect your company's growth and potential. And so, just by the way, questions or comments or anything that you'd like us to elaborate on, you can put it into the chat at any time. And if possible, Pat or myself will take a look at the chat and try to answer it at the moment. And then if not, if we can't get to it, we'll hold it for the end as well. And at anytime if you want to let us know what you're hoping to get out of it or any questions, feel free to type away. All right. And so, taking a look here, just before we get into the big meat of the presentation, if you are interested in wondering what it would be like to get a small business insurance policy with BCAA, you can go online. It's bcaa.com/smallbusiness, and that's where you can start off the application process. And it's very straightforward. And if you are a BCAA member and you input your membership number, you will be able to save up to 10% on your premium, and then an additional $50 as a one-time bonus if you type in the promo code BCAA50. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So, before we, as well, just as we're getting started here, just to give a disclaimer that all of the information and material in this presentation is purely for educational and informational purposes and should not be considered as legal advice or insurance advice. Okay, thank you. All right. So building and running a small business, that takes a lot of heart, a lot of passion and hard work. And you have all taken chances to establish your company and to grow them. And what we wanted to do at BCAA was help protect what you have built. And so, to support small businesses in the province, we launched this small business insurance program back in August of 2021. And that is just helping us in our commitment to protect British Columbians every way we can. And we found at the time doing our research that about 25% of the businesses in BC are either underinsured or don't have insurance. And just the process itself was a bit cumbersome. So that's why we created BCAA Small Business Insurance. And it's available now for over 200 different kinds of professions. We've got to focus on landlords, business services, and then retail and construction. And the online portal that we've designed is designed with simplicity in mind, so that it asks you a series of questions and it really helps you get through the process. And at any point while you're doing that application, there's the option to chat with a live person like Pat, not an agent or anyone else from any other company. There's our team of advisors are there looking at that chat in case anyone doing the application has any questions at all. And then I think we're ready here to carry on to the next slide and for Pat to step in and tell us about the different subject areas of a commercial insurance policy.
All right, thank you, Dan. Like you were saying, my name is Patrick Smith. I'm a senior commercial advisor with BCAA. And welcome and good morning. So I thought I'd open this morning's session with a little background about what the purpose of insurance is. And it's kind of a threefold thing. It's to reduce risk, protect financial uncertainty, and to manage accidental loss. But really what its primary function is really to risk transfer. So we'd want to transfer the risk from you to someone else. And there's different ways of doing that. You can do that by having an insurance company and you transferring that risk over to the insurance company. And then we assume that risk for you. You can do it through a hold harmless agreement or an indemnity agreement as well. You can add yourself as an additional insured to someone else's policy. That's another way of doing it. Or you can do through waiver of subrogation clauses as well. So the more ways that you actually you transfer the risk, the better it is for you, right? So yeah, we'll explore a little bit more about this as we get along. But yeah, that's the primary function of insurance, is transferring the risk for you. All right. So when you're setting up a business, there's multiple ways of doing it. You can do it through a sole proprietorship. You can do it through a corporate entity, partnerships, and then there's some other ones that we'll explore and touch on. But yeah, I mean, the simplest form to do it is sole proprietorship. That's basically just you operating a business. You're the sole owner of that business, and you bear all the financial and the liability responsibilities. Now, you may have an operating name. It could be similar to like Fred Flintstone operating as Fred's Excavating, or it might be Wilma Flintstone operating as Wilma's Consulting Service. But some people do and some people don't. My advice is that if you are going to use an operating name for your sole proprietorship, that you do check the name search and make sure no one else is using it. And yeah, other than that, it's pretty easy to set up and get going. Doesn't require any lawyers to help you there. Corporation does require lawyers and an accountant to help you set it up. The corporate entity is in itself a legal separate entity, separating you from that entity. And yeah, I mean, it has a lot of tax advantages and other advantages to set up as well. But essentially, you're going to be an employee of the corporation now as a shareholder or a director and officer of that company. And it has, like I said, a little bit of some different tax advantages. It has a lower tax rate for one. It has limited liability, again, separating you from that liability exposure. It's going to go after the assets of the corporation versus going after you personally. has a lifetime capital gains exemption, better access to capital. Yeah, and on that note, a corporate entity is similar to you. I mean, it can go hire employees, it can apply for loans, it can buy assets, it can own real estate. It can pretty much do everything you can do as a sole proprietor as its own legal entity. So that's something you might want to consider as your business grows, and you want to have a separation or a degree of separation from yourself and transfer that risk over to the corporate side. Partnerships, similar to a sole proprietor in that there's just more than one of you. Could be 2, 4, 6 of you operating the business. And you'll commonly see this with family operations, farms, small retail businesses, or what's another example? I'm right in my head there. It's like grocery stores. We see this commonly a lot with partnerships. Other forms would be LLCs, limited liability corporations, where it does require a lawyer to set up, and it's a contractual obligation between the different partners that will enter into a contract between them. And they'll usually use this for professionals, doctors' offices, lawyers, engineers, accountants. Those kind of folks will use the LLC to set up maybe a rented lease space, where they'll lease a space and then they'll hire front-end staff to work the front. Like a doctor's office will hire nurses and front-end staff to greet customers and stuff that come in. Whereas the doctor itself will have its own legal entity set up for its medical practice. So yeah, that's how an LLC typically works. And there's other types as well, like nonprofits that you can set up. So yeah, depending on what where you are at with your business, a lot of people just naturally graduate into those types of legal entities as they grow. So yeah, explore those and see what's out there and see what's right for your business there. So an insurance policy, a small business insurance policy, is there to help you in different ways. It could help you if you cause damage to other people through your business operations. So if you were to cause bodily injury or property damage to someone else, we would pick that up. It could be theft or damage to your own business. It could be a recovery of loss of income because your business suffered a peril. And we get asked a lot, what's a peril? So a peril really is just an insurance term for an event that can cause any bodily injury or property damage to someone else or to yourself. So an example of that would be like an earthquake or a flood. And now we're seeing, like today with this bomb cyclone hitting BC, strong winds, flooding that can occur. So these are examples of perils. So next slide there. All right, so yeah, coverage will vary depending on the type and scope and size of your business there, but yeah, pretty much anything can be added to your business. So typically when you're setting up a business, you start with a liability policy. Now, you're not likely going to get a standalone property policy, but you can get a standalone commercial general liability policy. And then from there, you can add on property and specialty coverages like contents and stock. It could be a loss of income, it could be tools and equipment, and professional liability if you're a professional out there, or if you're giving advice. But today we're gonna start with the foundation of all policies, and that's the commercial general liability policies. So the commercial general liability policy, it covers physical risks like bodily injury and property damage, as opposed to the professional side, which covers more abstract types of losses. So yeah, the commercial general liability is a very important coverage for small businesses. And I'm going to hopefully convince you by the end of this that why it's so important and why it's very important to have a commercial general liability policy for your small business. So the commercial general liability is pretty broad. Okay, it's broken down into many sections, and like I said, it's very broad. And what today we're going to focus on some of the sections, the most basic ones that we call the injury sections. So we have bodily injury, we have property injury, we have personal injury, and we have advertising injury. Then we have follow forms like medical expenses, which is going to follow the bodily injury section. And then we have your legal defense costs. All right, so commercial general liability. Under that bodily injury, like I said, it's a physical injury to someone's body. And but it's broader than that. It includes sickness, disease, mental anguish, mental shock. Even death can be picked up under this section. And when we're talking about commercial general liability, this is referring to third party. So all the bodily injury and property damage refers to other people's property or other people. It doesn't apply to you per se. So we get asked a lot, well, okay, so if I get hurt on the job, is this commercial general liability going to protect me? And no, not under this section. You would apply for WorkSafe BC to protect you if you get injured on the job, or you can get private insurance for that. Property injury is, like I said, it's a physical, tangible injury to someone else's property. An example of that might be, if you're an arborist out there working and they cut a tree branch and it falls on the neighboring property and it damages that guy's roof or his gutter or his HVAC system. This section would pick that up. But if you're a service business, you cause some property damage to someone else's property, this section would pick it up. Medical expenses, they follow the bodily injury section, and they're activated without any legal requirements, without fault. So we call it incidental medical. It's got a lower amount, typically around $25,000, and it's there to pick up incidental small mishaps like trips and falls and that sort of thing. So let's say, for instance, that you're running a home-based business there, and someone comes to visit you at your home, and they slip and fall, walking up the sidewalk. And yeah, you're going to call an ambulance. An ambulance is going to show up, and they're going to ding you $350, and then they're going to take that client out to the hospital, and there's going to be attending physician fees. There's going to be some, blood work, maybe an X-ray or a cast has to be put on that person. So yeah, call it in. We'll be glad to look after them under this section, just to prevent lawsuits. Personal injury, unlike bodily injury, is more abstract. It's more of a mental injury. It's going to pick up things like social wrongs, like humiliation, defamation of character, defamation of reputation. It picks up other things like that for residential landlords out there. It can pick up wrongful eviction or wrongful entry. It can pick up malicious prosecution, false arrest or detention or imprisonment can be picked up under this personal liability section. When we're talking about liability, this is a very, very, very important section for small businesses because it's so broad. And the next section we're going to get into here is advertising injury. And this is very, very important for small businesses. And the reason that is because today, I can't imagine anybody who's not using social media for their advertising. It's not like 10, 15 years ago where, advertising injuries, they didn't really occur that often. And but today, now, when you put something out there, it's out there and it's hard to take back. You got to be careful when you're advertising now, because you know what? I'm going to briefly read to you what the definition of social media is because it's so broad. So broadly means things like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, messaging platforms and communities like WhatsApp, Reddit, and other related messaging apps. It's blogs, video sharing platforms like YouTube and Zoom, Teams, Vimeo podcasts, interactive electronic forums such as electronic newsletters, online forums, chat rooms, message boards, online webinars. Yeah, like I said, it's hard to take back when it's out there, and and it might not be used doing the advertising for you. It could be your brother-in-law, your sister-in-law, your spouse, or your employee doing the advertising for you out there. And we get a lot of children doing advertising for their parents nowadays because they're more tech savvy than their parents are. And yeah, it could be like, hey, Dad, I seen this wonderful ad on Facebook there, and they're getting 40 or 50 hits a minute. And you know what? I think we should copy it and get you some business. And you do, and 30 days later, you're slapped with an infringement lawsuit. So yeah, you got to be careful. You don't want to be out there using other people's advertising in your advertising. But yeah, things like trademark slogans, intellectual property, literary or artistic works, slogans, names, images, logos, all those kinds of things. Do some searching. Make sure that someone else isn't using those things. And interesting about that, there's some cases where lawsuits have been brought against people where they sincerely thought they came up with the advertising for themselves, or they've used this image that they created. And it's people think alike, and they didn't know someone in the US is using exactly pretty darn similar things that brought them into a lawsuit. So it's hard to know. So it's good to if you're doing a lot of advertising, to maybe get a good lawyer on your side there that knows what they're doing, and check your advertising. Just proofread everything before you get it out there. But yeah, this is a very important section. Like I said, under the commercial general liability, it's very broad, and it's really there to defend you. And we're going to get into that now under the legal defense costs. So I'm asked a lot from people saying, what do I need business liability? What do I need insurance at all for? And this is it. This is the primary reason I would say to get business insurance, is at least get commercial general liability. Legal defense costs are very expensive. And under a small business, you want to create a good team of people, right? You want to have a good insurance company that's there for you. You want a good lawyer. You want a good accountant. You want to build a team that's part of your protection team, we call them, that's going to help you through your business growth cycles, And legal defense costs are very expensive, and lawyers are really there to protect you in the event that you don't have insurance. So in the event that you do have insurance, legal defense costs will be picked up under the commercial general liability, and it's going to save you a lot of money there. But build a good team. We always say, that having a good team under your business plan there is the way to go. When you're doing your business plan, you're building your SWOT analysis there. And some of you may not know what that is, but that's your strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats analysis that you're going to do in your business plan. And that's where you're going to build your plan, how you're going to approach your advertising, how you're going to approach your markets, what's going to be your protective layer on your small business there. And that's where your professional teams come in there to help you out. All right. Next slide. All right. So, yeah, under a business policy, there's many sections. There's going to be your primary section is going to be your liability section. And then from there, you can add your property section. And then you can add your specialty sections. So here under the property section, yeah, anything usual to your business can be added in there. It could be stock and contents if you're a retailer, or if you have an office there or a home office. It could be buildings if you're a landlord. It could be improvements and betterments if you're leasing a space from someone else. It could be all your electronic gadgets. It could be property of others if you're working on other people's property or responsible for the other people's property. It could be tools and equipment there if you're a service-oriented business. And we can do this at a mobile or a fixed location. So if you have a brick and mortar shop there, it could be a fixed location. We can add all that property there. Or if you're going from place to place and your usual spot is a Starbucks coffee shop, or you're visiting clients' premises as part of your business, then we can add property on a mobile basis, so you're covered wherever you go as well. Professional liability. So yeah, under the specialty section there of the policy, you can add professional liability in there. So, and this covers things like penalties, settlements and fines, and all your legal defense costs for your profession. So if you're giving advice in any capacity, and people are deemed to rely on your advice, or it appears that they're going to be able to rely on your advice, then I recommend that you get a professional liability to protect you. So like I said, the commercial side is protecting you for physical risks. It's going to pick up the bodily injury and property damage sections. The professional liability is picking up more abstract things like the financial risk the financial harm you're going to cause to someone else because of your advice or failure to give advice or fail to perform under a contract. So this is a very important section as well. And like I said, if you're giving advice, take out an errors and omissions policy and add that on, and we can bundle that for you and make sure you're protected from all that, those legal exposures that you may be subject to. So do I need small business insurance? Yeah, like I said, insurance is going to be the most economical partner you're going to have, and for certain, it's going to be one of your best partners you're going to have, and probably the cheapest partner you're going to have as your business grows. So if your business were to cause damages to a third party, are you protected against a potential lawsuit? Failed to have insurance, and like I said, you can transfer that risk. It's all about risk transfer. You can assume that by yourself. That's called self-retention, and you can out-of-pocket those things yourself. You can transfer those to an insurance company, or like the other ways I mentioned as well, being added to other people's insurance policies. But if your business were to cause damage to someone else and you're brought into a lawsuit, you're going to have to defend that. And like I said, if in the absence of insurance, you're going to have to out-of-pocket those, and you're going to hopefully have a good lawyer who's out there to defend you. Failing that, well, then the insurance company there, we're going to defend you, and we're going to help you out in the event that you're brought into that lawsuit. And the whole purpose of this is to protect you financially. So the purpose of you going into business in the first place was hopefully to make money, right? To provide an income for yourself, possibly a retirement for yourself, or to pass that legacy on to your children. So yeah, you'd want to make sure that you're properly protected. Do you operate your business out of a commercial space, like a shop or a garage, or warehouse, or an office? Yeah, if you are, under this section, I mean, it might not be you who dictates that you need the insurance. If you're leasing a space, it might be the landlord who's going to dictate that. And they're going to require you to have a certain liability limit. They're going to require you to have certain property coverages. If you're a landlord, it might be the mortgagee who's dictating that you have to have certain types of coverages for that mortgage agreement to be in effect. So yeah, if you're working out of any place, even if it's mobile, like I said, we can add property and liability there to cover you to make sure that you're protected. Do you have equipment, tools, or inventory that would be too expensive to replace? Yeah, we're not talking a couple $1,000s that you can out of pocket. As you grow, you may have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars that that you just can't out of pocket. And so this is, again, where insurance becomes your most economical and important partners for your under your business there. Would an equipment breakdown significantly impact your ability to do business? Yeah, depending on the type of business that you're operating. If you're a manufacturer, then you may rely on certain key pieces of equipment there. Certainly hotels and service types, restaurants, they rely on certain types of booking systems and point of sale systems that's critical to their business. And if those were to go down, they suffered a loss. Then there's something called an equipment breakdown coverage that you can get that would protect you. And not too many years ago, I had a hotel that suffered exactly that. They suffered a surge and equipment breakdown that blew out all their phone systems and their sophisticated booking systems. And luckily, they had loss of income under their policy and equipment breakdown coverage that put them back in business pretty quick. But had they not had that, they would have been out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you never know. Plan for the worst just in case these things happen, right? And that's, again, part of your business planning there under your SWOT analysis. You don't want to leave things to chance. If your business had to shut down unexpectedly, would you have the adequate savings to support yourself? Yeah, not all of us have big fat bank accounts, and it's not easy to out of pocket there. But like I said, insurance, small business insurance there is probably the most economical way to buy insurance or to protect yourself. Like I said, when people ask me, under the section, well, $500 is or $1,000 a year is pretty expensive. Why not just use that money for something else? I said, yeah, okay. Well, what's it going to cost you for a lawyer? How many hundreds of dollars are you going to spend per hour for a lawyer to help you out there? And of course, you're going to need a lawyer at some point in your business growth cycle there. But again, we're talking about transferring of risk, right? So you want to find the most economical ways to do that. Insurance, again, is going to be one of those sources. Do you collect customers' information? Yeah, you got to be careful these days. If you're sitting on a bunch of critical information that you gather for your clients there that could bring them harm because if it's in your possession, then you might need something that's called a cyber policy. In North America, we do include a little bit of cyber protection under our commercial general liability policies, but it's not meant to pick up those real large exposures. It's only expense only. We don't include any defense costs under these things. So if you find yourself gathering that or keeping that information from your clients, then yeah, you'd want to get a standalone cyber policy that you get through a specialty insurer, and they would include all the defense costs there to protect you in the event that you're drawn into a lawsuit because of a cyber breach. I got to tell you, there's so many stats out there, and you can see the cyber breaches and people attempting to do cyber breaches on everybody nowadays. It's almost on a daily basis. So yeah, you need to protect your client's information, and a true cyber policy through a specialty insurer would be the way to go. Are clients asking to see proof of insurance? Yeah, all the time. We have consultants that need to have proof of liability before they can get onto someone else's premises. We have contractors the same. Reputable businesses want to deal with other reputable businesses, period. And they want to know that you have insurance. And a lot of times they want to be added to your policy. They want to transfer their risk to you so that if they're brought into a lawsuit because of your negligence, they're afforded some protection. Does your business goals include future growth? Yeah, well, I hope so. Like I said, the whole point of going into small business was to create an income source for yourself and your family, and maybe a retirement, or to pass that legacy on to your children in the future. So yeah, when you're thinking about all this stuff, make sure that in your business plan, like I said, that you're building a team that's going to support you and get you to your end goal, right? Whether that be to 1 year or 20 years or 50 years, right? So again, that cost is also a business expense. So all these things are you can write off in your on your tax time as well. So yeah. Yeah, business insurance is the way to go for the most economical part you're going to have there. So do I need small business insurance? Yeah, like I said, hopefully I've convinced you that, like I said, it's a very broad, commercial general line is very broad. It's there to help you. And if you do run your business out of your home, double check your home provider to make sure that your home insurance is providing you some coverage for your small business. More and more nowadays, they're not. They're getting out of that. And they're grandfathering people over to commercial over to the commercial side to do that business because the home insurance liability there wasn't meant to pick up commercial exposures. You can see how broad that commercial liability coverage is. It's got advertising injury in there and personal injury and the bodily injury and property injury sections there. And the home insurance just wasn't picked that up for small businesses. So yeah, if they can accommodate you over in the home side, then we'd be glad to look at it on the commercial side for you and look after you. But hopefully, you knock on wood, you don't have to suffer a claim and have to go through suffer a peril that's going to hurt your business there. But in the event that that does happen, you have a reputable company like BCAA there that's going to back you and protect you during that whole process. And we have our own Dan Sira here to show you how that claims process works. So thank you very much, and over to you, Dan.
Great. Thank you, Pat. So, Pat just went through the subject areas of a commercial insurance policy. And now what we can talk about is what'll happen if you need to use it. And so that whether you work from home or in an office or you're on the road mostly, there's situations in either of those setups that can result in having something to claim under your insurance policy. And so I would say that the most important thing to think about is the what is my job? Like, what am I supposed to do here? And so as the claims adjuster, what we do is we investigate, negotiate, and settle the claims. And to do that, the process is generally like this, where the first step is that you would report your claim, and that's to let us know about it. And at that point, what you would do, I guess, just before you give us a call, gathering the W5H of the situation. So starting with when you first noticed the problem, or if it was an injury, when, what time it actually happened or exactly happened, any information you can give about the timeline of events, whether it started small and got bigger, or if it was just a one-time sudden thing. And then after you do that, you would the claims team, someone would call you, and that would be me, someone like me, an adjuster, to talk about the next steps and make sure of whether we needed any more details. So during this first conversation, the adjuster would review what you have already, look for any gaps that we would need to flesh out so that we could make sure of all the different possible coverages that you have. And then sometimes end up with giving you a little bit of a homework assignment if we do need you to give us some more supporting documentation, statements, receipts, or anything like that. And then once I have all of the information that I've requested, that's when I can look at what happened and then all the details that you shared with me and compare it to the insurance policy. And we just sort of go section by section and look for where it lines up with coverages. And then once, as long as we are able to say, yes, this is a covered claim, then the next step would be to quantify it. And that can be different forms and take different shapes, because, for example, If it's just a straightforward property damage claim, you've had a toilet overflow in your office, then we're here to do a cleanup and maybe replace some floors and some drywall. And then those are the kind of situations that we would just pay the contractors directly. You pay your deductible to the contractor, and then we pay the rest also to the contractor. But then in a case where, for example, your place of business had to be shut down for a period of time, and you needed to either find a new location, or if it was just impossible to do that, you are totally shut down, then we would be calculating income loss. And for those kind of situations, we might ask you for, say, for example, tax returns or bookkeeper's notes, income statements, anything we can do to calculate what your revenue would have been if this hadn't happened. And then when we're ready to settle the claim, this could be something like a lump sum payment where we pay either you or the contractor directly, or if it was like the income loss type of situation, we might do scheduled payments to you where we sort of recreate the income flow by doing monthly payments. Or in a liability claim, that's another different situation where we wouldn't be paying you directly. This is where we would usually pay the injured party or their insurance company. And then, yeah, we can go to the next slide. And so just to have a few scenarios for you, what we think are common situations with a few different types of businesses. And so we can start on to the first example now. And these are all types of businesses that we have seen applications for and written insurance policies to cover as well. So this is coming from our portfolio. So for example, in a hair salon, which you could even be operating out of your own home, or you could be renting a chair or own a whole salon. In either of those situations, the commercial general liability policy, which is the foundation that Pat talked about, would be essential. And this can help you if there is something as simple as you damage someone's designer handbag or purse or jacket, and with hair dye or with any kind of solution, and then we would have to pay that person for a new one. Or the commercial general liability policy on a much bigger scale, if there is a slip and fall where someone has a bad injury now. And again, legal defense is a big part of these kind of claims, and that's covered. And then we also included the commercial building contents and stock coverage, and that is an on-premises coverage. So this covers your property, or sorry, the property that the business owns, and whether that's your own tools and equipment, or whether it is inventory or stock you have for sale, that's all covered under this one particular policy. And that would be something, for example, if if there's a theft and they break your windows and try to get in and steal some of your product, that would come in under this type of coverage. And then we also listed two more there. Loss of income, that was the profits coverage that we talked about before when you have to shut down your business. And an interesting thing about that is that if you're shut down for a short period of time, we would do some calculations, maybe get the help of your own bookkeeper so that we're all maintaining our accuracy. And then we would figure out more on a short-term basis what you would have had earned. However, this coverage is really good in a different way because it extends into the future. And so this loss of income or profits coverage also covers projected future earnings, which means we would calculate and take into account the growth of your business as well. So not just what you're earning now, but again, with the help of bookkeepers or accountants, which some do specialize in these type of insurance situations, we'd figure out what you could have been earning next year if your business was shut down for that long. And then really quickly, just the last one here, crime. That's because something like money itself, actual cash or money-like financial instruments, if they get lost, damaged, stolen, they're covered for just a very small limit, usually $1,000, in the commercial building contents and stock. That's for damage. But if it's for theft, then there wouldn't be any coverage. So theft of money in particular, actual cash money, is only covered if you have that coverage called the crime coverage. Okay, thank you. We can go to the next slide. And then as a contractor, we do have a lot of small and medium contractors, whether we're talking electricians, plumbers, framers, carpenters. We've already written several policies in this category. And again, I don't think we'll ever stop talking about it, but we've listed the commercial general liability coverage. And if you look at the scenarios here, a nail through a pipe in a wall causing a flood in someone's house or condo or townhouse, it's surprisingly a frequent thing that I deal with. Whether it is a pipe in the wall or a pipe in the floor or who knows, outside when they're excavating. I think throughout the year I probably get at least 5 or 6 of these claims where someone has punctured something that contains water. Now the water is leaked all throughout somebody else's property. But then you notice, looking back at the coverages that we've listed here, the two new ones that both have the word floater are something that is interesting because the word floater, it's a real insurance word. When I first started this job, I kind of laughed because I thought it was just a slang word or something, but it's right there in the official insurance policy wordings. And what it means is coverage that follows you. And so it floats along with you from place to place. The commercial building contents and stock coverage only covers you on the premises listed in your insurance policy. And the tool or equipment floater will cover those same tools when you're at a job site. Same thing with the installation floater, except this is for the building materials that you might leave overnight or over the course of a week or two at a job site. The hoarding of drywall or plywood that you have for a new construction house. So that kind of material would be covered under the installation floater and not the tool and equipment floater. So the reason why we listed those is because I've held another very common type of claim that I've handled is either a trailer full of tools. The whole trailer, in many cases, just gets lifted off the hitch and driven away with a thieves' car, or breaking into a lockbox where you have a lot of tools in the bed of a truck, and that gets pried open and cleaned out. Either of those situations, you would need the tool or equipment floater for that one. Okay, next one, please. And then we also we have started to see a lot more online businesses coming through our application process. And so that we've put the word designers down, but that's just as an example. Any type of business where you are mostly operating online, and that could, be from your home, or the example Pat gave earlier, you might want to change of scenery and go work out of a Starbucks or a library somewhere to just be somewhere else. In those situations, most of your work is digital. It's on the wires, but you still have equipment. You still have to have something to do your work on. And if you decided to take a day out of the house and do your work anywhere else, you would want to have that electronic equipment and laptops floater, mainly because whether it's a laptop, a tablet, a camera, or accessories for a digital camera, then all of that would, when you're off premises, would only be covered under that part there, the electric equipment and laptops floater. And I did recently have one of these situations where a person whose store is for astronomy equipment was doing a late night viewing of a meteor shower, and late night, like 2, 3 in the morning, and coming home on the highway. And he told us a very nerve-wracking story of an aggressive driver on the road with him, and our customer had to slam on the brakes to avoid this person. And when he did that, all this very expensive telescope and accessories and equipment jiggled around really hard in the car, and lenses were cracked and glass shrapnel got into certain mechanisms. So just everything was, a lot was ruined. And if this electronic equipment and laptops floater was there at the time, we would have covered about $18,000 or $19,000 worth of these telescopes and lenses. But unfortunately, in this case, they didn't have that. There was a different part of the policy where I could find at least a limited amount of coverage. So we were able to pay up to $10,000. But it just goes to show without that specific coverage, which you would get after just having a conversation with Pat or the other advisors, you'd assess those needs and figure out whether you needed it or not. We ended up paying about half the value of what was stolen. And we would have loved to have paid the whole thing instead. And I think we're running low on time, so we can go to the next slide. And then in a retail operation where you're either running, you could be a convenience store, a grocery store, the example here, clothing or others, many of the same coverages, but we've added the equipment breakdown coverage because again, there's always different things that are insured specifically under one part and excluded from a different part of the policy because they're already insured somewhere else. And this is one of those cases. Under the commercial building contents and stock coverage, you wouldn't see anything for, say, a grocery store's large freezers or refrigerated display cases. Or some buildings still have very large boiler hot water systems. And any of that kind of large equipment is covered only under that equipment breakdown coverage. And that's where they would take a look at either the repair or the replacement cost, and even the paying lost profits for the downtime while this equipment was offline. And again, I think let's go to the next slide now. So this is just a quick rundown. What can you do to make it easier for you and less stressful? Because when a claim happens, your emotions might be up, your stress level might be up, and it is just so hard to remember specific details. If you can think about the situation where a whole trailer gets stolen, how difficult would it be to try and remember everything that was inside? And not that we always need that, but it's always better to have more information than less. And so once you've got your insurance policy confirmed and bound and you've got the certificate of insurance, then at that point, I would always suggest take a photo of your equipment, take a photo of your inventory, or even your workspace or your store in general, just so that there's a reference of what it looks like when nothing bad has yet happened. And then from that, if something does happen, this is where we would use those photos, take a reference to see what's left after a big theft or after a lot of damage. What did things look like when they were undamaged? And then other strategies such as writing down the information immediately, taking names and phone numbers, taking photos. I've had to ask people to draw diagrams in certain situations when we're trying to explain to me what happened and where it happened. As you're going through, I mean, as your business is evolving and you go through different equipment over the years, always good to keep copies of receipts for anything that you don't want to pay for out of pocket. So any medium or bigger ticket items, just take a picture of it, save that picture of the receipt on your hard drive, and we have it if we need it, and hopefully you never do. And that leads into the last thing that I was going to say as well. And if we remember no, that's okay. We can carry on to the next slide. Thank you. Just a return to the very beginning so that you don't forget. If you do decide to come and take a look and go through the application process, then don't forget these two benefits to save you a bit of money. The membership, if you already have one, or if you decide to become a member at the time that you're doing the application process, that also works just the same. And then the promo code to get that $50 off of a new policy. Well then, that's all I had for today. Thank you, everybody.
So once again, to Dan and Pat, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge with us today. And we'll be following up if we've got questions or insurance needs. Absolutely. So thank you all for joining us today and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.